Do you have any idea what can happen to little girls who get snatched off the street? Some of them are sold into slavery, some are trafficked for their organs, and in some cases predators abduct them to satisfy their own sick urges and keep them hidden for years, living in conditions not fit for anyone. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of a girl who went through exactly that kind of fate. Before we begin, hit the like button and subscribe. We are actively trying to reduce the percentage of people who watch without subscribing, so contribute to that effort. Now switch your brain to cosmic mode, because in this universe, nothing will interrupt you while you watch this video. Our story today is about JC, who was born in Anaheim, California. When she was 2, the family moved to another city. Her mother, Terry, was raising her alone. Soon Terry met a man named Carl Probin and married him. After that, JC's little sister, Shauna, was born. In September of 1990, the family moved again. The area they chose had small schools, a quiet atmosphere, little houses tucked between pine forests, and the clear blue water of Lake Tahoe. On top of that, crime was low and the environment was good. It seemed like the perfect place to live. At that time, JC was in 5th grade. June 10, 1991, just a typical sunny summer morning. Her mom left for work, and 11-year-old JC headed to school. As she approached the bus stop, a gray sedan pulled up. A man was driving, and a woman sat beside him. JC thought maybe they were tourists looking for directions, but suddenly something struck her on the head, and the woman pulled her into the car. Her stepfather Carl saw this happen. He tried to chase the car on his bicycle, but of course he couldn't catch up. The sedan vanished within moments. A massive search operation began immediately. Police stopped cars leaving the city, and even helicopters joined the search. But the gray sedan had disappeared without a trace. Within hours, local and national media reported the kidnapping. All of America heard the story. TV stations aired a composite sketch of the woman and a description of the vehicle. Hundreds of volunteers joined in alongside police. Hundreds of thousands of flyers with JC's photo and details were distributed across the country. But despite all efforts, the car remained unlocated. Police questioned neighbors, friends, and acquaintances. The first obvious suspect was someone close, her biological father, Ken Slayton. Investigators thought he might have taken her to get his family back or out of spite. But he proved he had nothing to do with it. The second suspect was the stepfather, Carl Probin. Police thought maybe he considered the girl a burden and wanted to get rid of her. After all, she was a stepchild. But Carl passed the lie detector test and was cleared. JC's mother Terry was completely devastated. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and would break down in tears whenever she spoke about her daughter. She quit working altogether and dedicated herself solely to searching for JC. Friends and relatives supported her. That support was the only thing keeping her alive. Terry formed a group called JC's Hope. She raised funds, gathered volunteers, and offered a reward for any useful information. The case was constantly featured in the media. Posters were put up nationwide. T-shirts and flyers were sold. Someone even wrote a song called JC Lee that aired on the radio. Terry hoped that maybe the kidnappers would hear this and let her daughter go. JC's favorite color was pink. Soon the whole town of South Lake Tahoe was covered in pink ribbons, a symbol of solidarity and compassion. It started to seem like these efforts might be working. On April 22, 1992, the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office got an anonymous phone call. A man reported seeing a girl resembling JC inside a yellow van at a gas station, nearly 300 kilometers from her home. One of the videos we'll show is about a monstrous figure from World War II who subjected prisoners to horrific forms of torture, so terrifying that even the sound of her heels clicking made people tremble. 3 more videos will cover similar disturbing subjects, but those will remain a surprise. On top of that, there are over 10 audio and written stories, with real footage and photos, including terrifying World War II footage. This entire package is available only in October. If you're watching this video in a different month, just say "I paid for October," and you will be added to the October access list. I hope you understand, All of this is part of developing the content. In 1993, Terry hired private investigators and distributed nearly 1 million flyers across the United States with an age-progressed portrait of her daughter. By then, Jaycee would have been about 13. Terry lived on hope. Every morning she woke up with strength and determination, but every evening, if there was still no news, she sank into despair. And nights were pure hell for her. One night, under the moonlight, she looked up at the sky and thought, maybe Jaycee is also looking at this same moon right now, somewhere, waiting to be rescued. No matter how painful it was, she believed her daughter was alive somewhere and suffering, which meant she had no right to give up. Terry refused to accept that her daughter might be dead. As the years went by, news about Jaycee became rarer and rarer. Now I'm going to switch to a completely different world, not the world of people united by hope, but the world of darkness. When you hear this story, you may find yourself angry not only at the criminal, but at the system that failed. Philip Craig Garrido was born on April 5, 1951, in Pittsburgh, California. People who knew him described him as a good, hard-working boy. In 1969 he finished school, and that same year he started using drugs. He was soon arrested for drug possession but quickly released. At 21, Philip was arrested for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. The case never reached trial because the victim refused to testify. In 1973 he married his former classmate Christine Murphy, but the marriage did not last. Christine said Philip was violent, attacking suddenly and without reason. He beat her regularly. Eventually she left him out of fear. In 1976, Philip moved to South Lake Tahoe. He drank heavily, continued using drugs, and spent his nights at casinos. During that time, he became obsessed with a 25-year-old coworker. One night he waited for her in a secluded spot, grabbed her, took her to a storage unit in Reno, Nevada, and assaulted her. The outcome could have been far worse for the woman, but she got lucky. A police officer walking past the storage building heard a sound inside. Because it was faint, he knocked first. Garrido opened the door, and behind him the officer clearly heard the woman screaming for help. Philip was immediately arrested. In March 1977 he was sentenced to 50 years and imprisoned in Kansas. In prison, he met a woman named Nancy Becker, and on October 5, 1981, they were married. In 1988, Garrido was moved to another facility and was soon released on parole. They moved to Antioch, California, into the home of Philip's elderly mother. The house was in disarray, the environment inside was unhealthy. Philip's mother was seriously ill, so Nancy became his only close companion. He confessed his darkest urges to her, and Nancy was not disturbed by them. The two of them were an unquestionably unhealthy pair. In 1991, Nancy agreed to help him obtain a child, not to raise as a child, but for sexual purposes. They began searching for a victim and bought a video camera. Philip would sit in parks and playgrounds playing guitar while Nancy pretended to film him, but the camera was actually recording the children behind him. Philip later watched the tapes to choose a potential victim. That is how they noticed Jaycee Dugard. Her pretty face, clear skin, and bright eyes captivated Philip. He wanted only her, as if she were a doll to decorate his life. On June 10, 1991, they abducted Jaycee. Their house was 200 kilometers from hers, and before the search could begin on a large scale, they had already reached their pre-planned hiding place and concealed the car. On the first day, Philip sexually assaulted her in the shower. After that, he brought her to the backyard. The place looked like a junkyard, an outdoor shower, a shed with a rotting roof, empty swimming pools filled with old clothes, tents, an old yellow van, and other makeshift structures. The area was surrounded by tall trees and fencing. Jaycee was kept in a small shed. Philip gagged her so none of the neighbors could hear. Her hands were constantly restrained. He warned her about large dogs in the yard and said they would tear her apart if she tried to run. Philip regularly degraded her, then after seeing her cry, would apologize. He was out of control. If Jaycee had not been there, he would have targeted other girls. In that sense, without knowing it, Jaycee's endurance saved many other children from the same fate. The tiny room JC was kept in had only a trash bin and a place to sleep. About a month and a half after the abduction, Philip moved her into a slightly bigger room. Her hands were still shackled. Every day Philip told her that some sort of voice from above had not given him permission to release her, as if he was following divine orders. At the same time, he insisted she had to help him work through his sexual problems. For a long time, Philip was the only person JC was allowed to speak to. She was completely isolated from the outside world. Because she was still so young and had no one else to talk to, she began to trust him by default. Sometimes Philip brought her hamburgers and fries or told funny stories, but always with threats behind it. He would say that he could sell her to people who kept girls in cages, or that she would never see decent food again. That fear forced JC to appreciate her current situation. One day he brought in a television, but only allowed channels without news. JC often thought of her mother. She remembered watching the moon with her before. She looked at the moon through whatever small view she had and cried until she had no tears left. 7 months passed before Philip finally introduced her to his wife Nancy. Nancy brought her a stuffed bear and chocolate milk. She immediately apologized to the girl. Sometimes Nancy behaved like a caring mother, and sometimes like a cold, jealous woman who saw the girl as a rival for Philip's attention. But at times she pitted JC, reminding herself, she's just a child. Moments like that make you realize how powerful a woman can be if she chooses to be. At 13, JC became pregnant. Philip couldn't take her to a hospital, so he brought her maternity magazines and told her to prepare by herself. She watched a TV channel for mothers-to-be to learn what to do. Eventually, she delivered the baby alone. On August 18, 1994, at age 14, JC gave birth to her first daughter. On November 13, 1997, her second daughter was born. She raised both children using what she learned from television. Nancy was now completely pushed aside. Philip had a young captive and 2 children. Nancy reacted to this in a disturbingly strange way. Philip then told JC, "You're not their mother anymore, you're their sister. My wife will raise them." Years passed, and control over JC loosened. She was no longer continuously locked up. She could walk around the yard and spent more time with her daughters, teaching them herself. Philip opened a small print shop making business cards, and around 2000 JC started working there as a designer. She even interacted with clients. She was given a work phone and access to email, but she never revealed her captivity. Her mind was still stuck at age 11, and she constantly feared for herself and her children. The most heartbreaking part? Because Philip was on parole, police officers occasionally checked the house. They saw JC once. Philip told them she was his uncle's daughter. They believed him and left. Imagine how indifferent you must be to accept that answer at face value. In 2006, a neighbor called 911 and reported seeing children living in tents in Philip's yard. He described Philip as a sexual offender and a psychopath. An officer came but talked only at the doorway. He simply told Philip to give the children better living conditions and left. He never even entered the home. Peak negligence. Then again, 15 years had already passed. Even if officers had heard of a missing girl, most people believed that a child missing since age 11 had to be dead. Yet Garrido had a prior record for assaulting minors, and more accusations followed throughout the years. He was clearly dangerous, and many knew it. He was legally forbidden to have contact with minors, and still there were girls running around his yard. Years kept passing. JC was still living in captivity. 18 years had gone by since her disappearance, and the search for her was still technically active. On August 24, 2009, Philip Garrido walked into the UC Berkeley police station. He claimed he needed a permit for a special Christian event. In his statement, he talked about religion and sexuality, claimed he had solved his past issues, and said he had a message that could help others stop sinning. He acted as if he was receiving revelations from above. He spoke with Officer Campbell. Campbell didn't buy what Garrido was saying. The next morning, August 25, Campbell came back with another officer, Jacques. Garrido brought the 2 girls with him, The investigators were very experienced, and during the conversation Jacques noticed something off about the girls. Their behavior simply didn't feel right. Later that same day, officers went out to search Garrido's house again. That search also ended with nothing. Then on August 26, 2009, Garrido walked into the agency office with his wife Nancy, his 2 daughters, and the girl he introduced as Alyssa, who was actually Jaycee Dugard. The family members were separated into different rooms. Garrido repeated the same lie, that the girls were his brother's kids who lived in another town. Jaycee still couldn't say a word against him. She stuck to the same fake family story. But eventually Garrido cracked first. He admitted he had kidnapped her and assaulted her. After that, Jaycee finally exposed the truth as well. She said her real name and confessed that she had been held captive all these years. But she was so terrified of Garrido that she didn't even dare to say her own name out loud. She asked for a piece of paper and wrote it down. Meanwhile, Jaycee's mother was still doing what she had done every night for years, talking to the moon as if she were talking to her daughter. "Where are you, my girl?" That very same day, police called her and told her they had found Jaycee. Then they handed Jaycee the phone. Terry heard her daughter's voice and burst into tears. "My baby," she said over and over. Then she was told she now had 2 granddaughters, ages 15 and 11. But that wasn't good news to her in a happy sense. Terry said, "He ripped my heart out. He stole her life, her childhood, her youth, her first love, her graduation. You can't give that back. We are going to court. He must pay." After the arrest hit the news, another woman called the police and reported that Garrido had assaulted her too, back in 1972 when she was just 14. That testimony also influenced his final sentence. In 2011, Garrido's wife Nancy was sentenced to 36 years. Philip Garrido was sentenced to 430 years in prison. Today, Jaycee is free. She studies, she travels with her family, she loves horseback riding, and she is making the most of her freedom. And she says one thing matters most: pay attention. If you see a child acting strangely, talk to them. Ask questions. Even if they are standing next to their parents, if something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Call the police if you must. That child might be a missing kid someone is still searching for. And that's the story. If this video helped you see things differently, hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment. I love you all, stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.